Hi.
So like we discussed yesterday, later in the lecture, I have a question regarding Unit 3 Business Communication, one of its tasks.
Oh, yeah, on the other unit, yeah.
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 So could you open up the assignment brief for Unit 3 so I could make it more clear to you?
Of course, yeah. Okay, we're on. So what's your question?
So I have a question in task 1 in its third point, where it says a diagram showing simple communication model within an organization. Now the problem starts from the next statement. Comment on how the relationship between the managers and staff communication. It looks like an incomplete statement. I mean, it's really vague to understand.
Yes, I can see. I agree with you. Let's have a link. I don't know whether I can alter this. I don't think I can. This is from OTHM. Let me look at there. And that should be communicate. You should, if you put in after between,
Yeah.
put in how. Yeah. And change communication to communicate.
I do understand one thing, that it is related to assignment criteria 1.4, where it says explain different communication models, right? It is related to that. But when we come to the assignment brief thing, specifically this point, I don't understand, like, how do we need to explain it? What is the demand of this task over here? Like, comment on how the relationship between the managers and staff communication, like, what are they asking
Well,
for?
I'll take you back to the scenario at first. You're working for a human resource department of Wheelie, small company. Due to some recent sales failures, due to poor communication and data to be reached, the director has asked you to educate the managers and staff about the importance of communication. So, going back to that bit there, so the comment on how the relationship between how the managers and staff communicate, So basically what it's asking you to do is mention the fact that there are difficulties, or there have been difficulties between the way they actually communicate their information, and between themselves and the staff. So that can be looked at, the way that communication takes place. The method.
But isn't that task included in the second statement, a diagram showing the communication process with a legend describing the barriers to communication being from the sender and the receiver, or both?
Yeah, but that is a general diagram about looking at different barriers to different communication processes, being from sender to receiver or both. This one is a specific one with regard to this company, and the miscommunication between managers and staff,
Okay, and in addition, in this particular statement, I think we also need to relate it to one of the models that we studied earlier, as it says, a diagram showing a simple communication model within an organization.
Yeah.
So it'll be pretty much related to that model, the the barriers and the problems incurred.
Yeah.
Okay. But isn't this a really major mistake by OTHM?
Yes. Not the first. We've had many pointed out. One of the things that awarding bodies do is get feedback from us as well. So don't worry, that will be passed forward.
Okay.
Yeah. We deal with a number of awarding bodies, and of course, when the mass production of information of this sort, there are communication problems. This is an example of a communication problem. Yeah, that I totally agree with you. Is a misstatement. Yeah, and I will feed that back. Thank you for pointing it out. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. Right, I'll drop back to yeah. Let's go up. Just got to look at this one. This is an example, yeah, of a proposal. So we've got the topic that's going to be looked at is the adverse impact of industrialization on the environment. A case study of plastic toys manufacturing in China. A lot of the information that's been received on the impact of industrialization on the environment has mainly come from the West, because we've got obviously a much longer history of industrial processes having an adverse effect on the environment, most of which in the developed world has been looked at closely, especially over the last 20 years, and huge systems have been brought in place to actually improve or to stop the adverse effect on the environment. As countries like China and India develop and start to produce more and more in the way they're manufacturing, they will not have, or they will have the benefit of that experience, but they won't necessarily use it because with that environmental charge, of course, it's got a cost to the actual company in how they deal with waste and how they deal with materials coming in and how they protect workers from the conditions of the materials that they may be handling. So there are a whole host of areas in here that you could look at. And again, we're witnessing the third industrial revolution. So to come in a nutshell, what I've just been saying, that factories were set up with hundreds of weavers working under one roof using a mechanized process. The age of mass production started with Henry Ford and cars, and the third revolution seems to have knocked the door of digitalization of manufacturing. It's an age that is moving from mass production to mass customization. It's being compared to a reversal of the movement from the original industrial revolution. This is suggested paths of development should meet present requirements and not the cost of future generations to meet the requirements. In UK now, even now, some rivers are still being cleaned from 50, 60, 70 years ago. So again, using here, according to businessroute.com, the Asian toy market was of total sale. So what he's doing here is using references to material that is then going to quote from. And it's giving details of and percentages of the total population of children. Australia has the highest capital expenditure on toys, according to DVR. So these are references that are being quoted from, yeah. So this is how a research question is being put together, yeah. The rationale, So why are you doing why the research is taking place? Yeah. It gives then a clear statement. China is already facing the problem of growing old age with the lesser numbers of children because of its one-child policy during the last 3 decades. The study may be valuable for China itself, along with other Asian countries. Yeah, so it's saying why you're going to do the research, because of its value and why its value is there. Other nations that are developing could face increasing resistance from these nations, who could pose a challenge to the survival of Chinese plastic toy manufacturers. This has happened, of course, in UK. Or I can give you figures from the top of my head, actually. If you think of years ago, the UK produced 70% of everything that was made in the world. Yeah. So over the years, that has changed drastically in the last 30, 40 years. And now, everything from plastic toys to production of food is done in other countries. Now, that is what that has done. It has changed the way UK earns its money. We no longer have plastic toy companies or operations of that nature, because it's being done very well by other countries and produce at a lesser cost. So, of course, we've had to move into other areas, more scientific areas perhaps, to actually replace that work that's come through. So these are reasons why this research is taking place. So, what are its aims and objectives? Based on the above mentioned study, the following are questions that can be answered after completion of the research. To analyse Chinese adaptability with respect to the changing norms on plastic toys, and to identify possible opportunities for China to retain its leadership position in this industry, especially in its Asian markets. So there are 2 questions that have been developed, and this is how to actually set it up. Yeah. So you're going to show your reading or material that you've read and got information on background. Yeah. It gives them more detailed information with regard to why you were going to do this research. Yeah. And all the factors that surround it. Right? It may be interpreted the low disposable income of these markets, especially of urban and middle class, is targeted by global business organisations like Computer. Details again of where that was taken from, and it gives serious details of how many people in the workforce there are and how many companies. Yeah. And why increasing costs, margin in the toys industry is going down. The survey suggested the majority of Americans decided not to buy toys, not to buy Chinese toys, 26%, and only 13% will buy toys. Hi, did you get that? I believe we were cut off for a few seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it goes into detail of the surrounding parts of this, which will affect the last bit, the 2 questions that are being asked. Yeah. So this is why you need to find your reason for doing it. Yeah. to analyse the adaptability with respect to changing norms and to identify opportunities to retain the leadership position. So those are two, that is a good example of how to put your research proposal together. In fact, it is no more than, what, a couple of pages? 2, 3, because then you've got your references on a separate page, yeah? So it says exactly where the references have come from and set out in Harvard referencing setup, yeah?
Yeah.
We covered, actually on last week, but we also covered it on the other unit as well, didn't we, on referencing? Yeah. So you should be well versed in that by now. So on that, close that down. I'll close that down a minute. Yeah, close that down. And that. Oh, that's the one. Wrong one again. This schedule just looks at the manual aims to provide an overview of key requirements for a research project. So step 1 is selecting the research topic, yeah, developing a research title and putting that together, yeah. It's actually saying on this one that the research should be within broad organisational, management and leadership fields as appropriate to your interests and background. Yeah. So in answer to your question, Daniel, has it got to be business? The answer to that is yes. As I said to you, technically it could be any subject, but because this is a business aimed unit, then that it makes sense to do that way. Yeah. So you need to actually fulfill a number of set criteria. Try to be concise, but when you put in a presentation together, don't put more than 10 to 12 words on the page. And finally, keep your title clear and easy to understand. In other words, consider it from a layperson's point of view, somebody that does not know anything about your subject. So I'll put that down. Something else I want to look at before we close today. Research for the strategic manager. Again, it's an example of a presentation. Yeah. Qualitative analysis. Yeah. What do you think that means? Anybody?
It tells us about the quality content that needs to be set while we are analyzing or assessing something that needs to be
looked at. Yeah, that exactly. Yeah. It's the quality of the analysis, the material or the data. It's not the amount of data. It's how good or what the quality is and what the detail is of the data that you're looking at for analysis. Yeah. Quantitative methods. Only 1 in 30 take a free ice cream. Interesting. Yeah. Would you feel when you saw the free ice cream? Excited, a little scared. Why was that? So that is finding out more information, not just an outline. Yeah. So quantitative gets lots and lots of information, of small bite-sized pieces of information, whereas qualitative looks in detail at the subject. Yeah. Rather than just looking at little pieces bit by bit. We're not going to do a classroom exercise today, but yeah, qualitative data is in-depth structured interviews, semi-structured interviews, and structured interview questionnaires containing a substantial number of open questions. Anything, pictures, drawing, physical objects, case study notes, videos, action-oriented participation with a group being studied, participant notes, videos, recording, unstructured and semi-structured diaries, minutes of meetings, personal documents, press clippings, photographs of other types of visual material, observation of a field notes, that's primary data as well, yeah, and technical fieldwork notes. So those are all qualitative data, and they're all, majority of those will be, apart from study notes, videos, press clippings, the rest of it will be primary data, yeah. Those other parts will be secondary data gained from other sources. Quality issues in qualitative research. It needs personal involvement in the research process. The data is reliable and it's valid, but these are not barriers, but things to reflect on and discuss in the research itself. Could lead to that. Sorry, we're moving on. It's not moved up. Common framework for qualitative data analysis. Familiarise yourself with the data, organising it, setting it out, and then displaying it. Drawing your conclusions from it, checking it, and then linking it to any theories if that's appropriate. It will follow most of these steps, but not all of them. Like I said, you can link it to theory if there's an issue with that, but if there's not, then you obviously don't need to do that. So it looks at collecting things, thinking about them, and noticing them. So those are the things you look at when you're looking at your data. Yeah, things that pick out that will meet what you're looking to do. Collect them, and then think about which ones of those you're going to put in. Two common approaches. Content analysis, different or disparate, looks at where you've got your information from. Or thematic analysis. This is where you use a particular theme around your subject and stick with that as you gather your information. Again, an example of content analysis of different types of tourism brochures. In all the sample brochures, the representations of men and women were extremely stereotypical. Men seem to be active, swimming, water skiing, playing golf, hold menus and drive cars. Women are portrayed as passive, watching men, enjoying sedentary leisure, or performing domestic tasks such as kitchen, in self-catering apartments, or looking after children. So those are examples of stereotypical views and the way they're presented in brochures, which could create a problem for the tourism industry. Again, giving some of the content notes as an example. Somebody analysed that. She recognised this. Cohen's theory, the tourist gaze. And those are examples of where the data has been collected, and it's also relating it to actual theory in this case. But like I said, that may not happen in every example. So obviously, depending on the research topic that you've chosen, that may or may not apply. A thematic approach is different to content analysis. Again, you read the options and explain your choices, but it involves sensing themes in the data, doing it reliably but being consistent. You can develop codes for these themes as well, so that you work on like a bullet pointed list, yeah. And interpreting information and themes in the context of any theory or literature that you're going to use as in your literary review. When you move into your own home, you're alone. There is no bustle and people are in the house. I miss, so that's a feeling, yeah? Makes me feel alone. So it's again, it's feelings again. Sometimes I am too tired, yeah? It's good to move out of mum and dad's healthy and rely on them, as it won't last forever. So it's looking at the theme of being alone or moving away from a secure area into independence. Yeah, so that's a theme on a specific thematic analysis. But again, that's just an example of thematic analysis. It may not be one that you wish to use. Be careful not to quantify, count, draw numerical conclusions from a small set of data. Qualitative analysis should be about meaning, depth, interpretation, and understanding, not about breadth, the extent to which, or trends and things like that. You are the active interpreter, so it's not an exact science. It's something that you. This is why I said that when you choose your project or your subject, it should be something that you've already got an interest in, because that way it makes this part of it that much easier. As you are the interpreter, you can say, you can slant something to your view if that's what you wish to do, or you can look at it from a certain point of view. But obviously the result needs to be the same. Qualitative data is openly subjective. It's somebody's opinion. It is intuitive and recognises the interplay between data and findings. So again, any result, although it was based on specific data, that data is, again, openly subjective. It's somebody's idea, or somebody, like a theory, that's a good example. A theory is somebody's idea, yeah? It may not be agreed to by everybody, and you will find conflicting reports when you start to get data together. If you look at somebody's ideas on the subject and then read some more about it from somebody else, there'll be a different point of view on it, yeah? And that applies to yourself as well as you do the research. That is all I wanted to show you on the subject this morning. Of course, if you've got any questions afterwards, this recording will go on to the VLE. And also, if you've got any questions, just either text me or mail me in the normal way, and I'll pick those up and get back to you. Is there anything you want to say or ask me about before we go?
No.
No, you okay with that? You okay, Daniel? Yeah. Again, just contact you if you've got any questions. Don't just send me a mail. Okay. In that case, I'll close the meeting. Thank you for attending, and I will speak to you soon. Bye now.
All right. Bye. Thank you.